At night on the Northwestern Railway, engines are always hard at work. Thomas and Percy pulling the mail, Henry with the flying kipper, though there's one diesel who works harder than them all. Dennis is an odd engine, only ever working at night as he would much rather sleep through the busy hours and do his work under nightfall. He found it peaceful and much less hassle than waiting for signals during busy traffic. One night, as he approached the foot of Gordon's Hill with a late goods run to Vickerstown, he heard an unusual whistle ring out through the darkness. Strange, he thought. That doesn't sound like any of the usual engines this time. Probably just a different one covering for the night. He was just starting on the main climb of the hill when on the other line a rake of trucks flew past, wheels rattling and stone clanking. Dennis was in utter shock, as up on the hill he could see no engine there at all. Then, just as he could get his thoughts together, there was the sound of a loud crash behind him. That must have been the runaway. Oh, I hope no one is hurt. He rolled back down the line, passing Molly with the usual night passenger train to Brendam, but when he returned to Wellsworth, there was no sign of the runaway, or even any damage from a crash. A whistle with no engine and a vanishing runaway? What is going on? He was thoroughly confused as he started back up the hill. He would bring it up to Norman in the morning. The sun was just rising over the horizon as Dennis returned to his shed, where Norman was getting ready for the day.
Morning, Dennis. Have a good night.
It was alright. Although there was one strange thing when I was at Wellsworth. I was heading up Gordon's Hill when I heard a whistle that doesn't sound like any of the usual trains at night. Then a runaway went past and I heard it crash, but there was no damage anywhere.
That is strange. I could ask some of the other engines if they've seen anything similar at night.
Thanks, Norman. Now, if you'll excuse me. Yeah. And with that, he backed into the shed, falling asleep as soon as he stopped. Norman rode into Crosby for his first job of the day, and Donald and Douglas were in the yard getting a long goods train together as they pulled up alongside.
Good morning, you two. Is it alright if I ask you something?
Aye, laddie, replied Donald. What have you got on your mind?
Well, this morning Dennis said he heard a strange whistle on Gordon's Hill and a runaway train vanished. I know you two are the superstitious type, so do you know anything strange about that hill?
Well, pondered Douglas. There was that one story old Jack told us about that one time. Oh aye, the one about the phantom engine. Every year he charges the hill trying to make it over, but he never does. Maybe that's who your brother heard last night. Though it is just a story, I didn't think it's real. It was probably just an engine for the mainland yard. So that doesn't explain the runaway vanishing. The twins sat in silence for a moment, thinking. I dinna ken. Maybe it was just his mind playing tricks on him, said Douglas. I'd love to help you crack this mystery, but we'd best be off now.
Alright, thank you for the help, you two. See you later.
See you later, laddie. And be careful for the phantom engine. Whoa! Donny, cut that out, would you? And with that, the two Scots chuffed away with their train. Later, Norman arrived with his train at the small goods station at Vickerstown, a platform closer to the yard to allow the passenger traffic to flow smoothly in the main station. There, he saw Pug shunting a rake of coaches.
Good afternoon, Pug,
he said cheerfully.
Afternoon to you too, Norman,
she replied, sounding tired and irritated.
I have a question. Last night, were there any mainland engines running light back towards the mainland?
I don't think so. Why do you ask?
Dennis thought he heard a strange whistle on Gordon's Hill last night and saw a runaway that vanished. Douglas says the whistle was probably from a mainland engine.
Well, sad for you, the only engines that passed through last night were Henry with the kipper, Gordon and the Beck on the late express, Archibald delivering coal, and Penny with night goods.
Maybe Donald was right about it being a ghost engine.
Ghost? Ha! Those things aren't real.
The amount of tall tales I had from recommending in the word about spirits and spectres is too high to count. Plus, you know those twins like wind their folk up with the paranormal. Remember Percy with the gnomes?
True. Well, thank you for clearing that up for me, Pug.
Yeah. Now get to move on. I need that platform cleared or Castle will talk my ear off again.
Right, sorry.
And with that, he moved his train to a siding and turned for his next job, trying to think of what it could have been that his brother saw. That night, he returned to his shed at Farquhar where Dennis was waiting, having just woken up not too long ago. There he explained what the twins and Pug had told him throughout the day. "Oh well," said Dennis. "It could have just been nothing, but thank you for looking into it." He tooted his horn and rolled off. While he had heard the story old Jack told from Percy and didn't believe in ghosts, it almost felt like that was the only explanation, and it was making him feel a little nervous as he left for his work. The night felt colder than usual as Dennis worked. He tried to keep his mind off the story by keeping busy around the yards, which helped for a while until the yard manager at Crosby walked up to him. "Dennis, I've got a goods train and he's taken to Abbey about morning. Would you mind taking it over?" Oh, Dennis was apprehensive. Going to Abbey meant passing over Gordon's Hill, but he knew work had to get done. "Of course, sir. I'll get it done right away." He shunted his train together, and gathering all the courage he could, he set off down the line. He passed through Wellsworth, passing Molly, who was waiting at the station with her passenger train, and reached the base of the hill. "There's no such thing as ghosts. There's no such thing as ghosts," he muttered to himself. Just as he passed under the bridge to the main climb, he heard that same unknown whistle echoing through the darkness. His eyes darted up the line, looking for any engine that it could have come from, when he saw something that made his radiator run cold. The same runaway from last night was rolling down the hill, but he was in its path. The sound of rusted wheels rattling on the track grew closer and closer as it babbled towards him. "It's gonna hurt me!" he cried as his driver threw him in reverse as fast as he could, flying back down the line as the truck got closer until he finally lost sight of the master turn. He came to a stop at Wellsworth Station, catching his breath and shaking with fear as the distant sound of the truck's crashing rang out through the night. Just as he regained his composure, he heard Molly sigh. "Oh, Samson." "Samson?" asked Dennis. "I've never heard that name. Is that who the whistle belongs to?" "Yes, and it seems you should probably do with an explanation." And she started to tell a story. Samson was an engine from the old days of the railway, being owned by a private quarry company that worked on the island. While not exactly a strong engine, he was able to shunt the trucks of stone with ease, which always pleased his manager, making him overestimate himself and become quite boastful about how powerful he was, though that ego would become his downfall one fateful night. It was a late night back in 1920. Normally, with the strength of the engines back then being not as strong, everyone was required to have a banker help them over the hill. But it was a busy time, so none were available. Samson had been told to wait for Edward to come help him, but he was adamant. "No need. I can get over the hill just fine myself. I am a powerful goods engine after all." And he set off against the protests of the station master. He strained and struggled, making it halfway up the hill before something started to hurt. "Oh, that doesn't feel right. Not just a bit further." Then snap, the safety valve broke and pressure started to build up more and more in his boiler until it was too late. "You don't mean..." Yes, his boiler exploded, taking the life of him and his crew. His trucks ended up crashing down at the bottom of the hill and had to be recovered in the morning. And now, every year around the time of the accident, his spirit tries to get up the hill to make his manager proud, but he never makes it. He finished, a somber look on her face. "Oh my, that's terrible," said Dennis, his face pale. "Indeed. I'm sorry you hadn't been told about it before this. Maybe it would have helped avoid a fight or two." "Well, thank you for telling me a story, Molly," he muttered. Then, with a solemn honk of his horn, he set back off for Abbey, now feeling much more down. Now, whenever Dennis climbs Gordon's Hill, he gives a honk of his horn for the old engine, hoping someday he might finally make it to the top.